Good morning, I'm Neva Manu, and this is your morning news fix for Wednesday, 7th of February. In this update, the Prime Minister is being accused of reusing old notes in his Waitangi speech yesterday. A social media user has pointed out the similarities between Christopher Luxon's speech this year and 2023. The video is labelled, "When you copy last year's school assignment and hope no one notices."
And we know that in the years that followed, the promise and the obligations of the treaty were not upheld by the Crown.
And here's this year's version.
And we know that in the years that followed, the promise and the obligations of the treaty were not upheld by the Crown.
Meanwhile, a Māori academics pleased with the public's response to any government meddling with the treaty. About 1,000 people marched to Waitangi Treaty Grounds yesterday, where political and community leaders offered prayers and readings. Deputy Prime Minister Winston Peters hit out at his treatment at Waitangi, saying Ngā Puhi let themselves down. Auckland University Māori Studies Professor Margaret Mutu says thousands of non-Māori turned up as well. She says in an attempt to strip Māori of their rights, the government might have unintentionally pulled the country together to say no. Prince Harry has flown in from the USA to see his father. King Charles has just been diagnosed with cancer, which was found during an unrelated procedure. He's begun treatment and is stepping away from public duties, but continuing state business and paperwork. BBC royal correspondent Sarah Campbell says the King arrived at Clarence House yesterday.
Our understanding is that Prince Harry, who we know he'd spoken to give his diagnosis, had flown in, arrived this lunchtime, came to Clarence House. We saw those vehicles enter Clarence House.
Sarah Campbell says the King then flew by helicopter back to Sandringham Castle in Norfolk. A public health warning has been issued due to smoke from a large vegetation fire near Glasnevin, south of Waipara in Canterbury. State Highway 1 was closed for a time, but has since reopened to one lane of traffic. Fire and Emergency Incident Controller Des Irving says multiple crews have remained at the scene overnight and extinguishing efforts will continue this morning. Medical Officer of Health Dr Cheryl Brunton says the smoky air is a potential threat for people who are sensitive to smoke, such as those with heart or lung conditions, young children and the elderly. It's thought a spike to New Zealand's unemployment rate is on the cards later this morning. Multiple bank economists estimate it to land at 4.3%, up from the September quarter's 3.9%. ANZ economist Henry Russell told Mike Hosking he picks that too.
The key driver of that is the ongoing recovery in labour supply, reflecting the record net migration inflows we've seen.
In sport, the Black Caps are 179 for 4, extending their lead to 528 heading into day 4 of the first cricket test against South Africa. Australia's flogged the West Indies by 8 wickets in Canberra to wrap up an ODI series clean sweep. Former All Blacks playmaker Tony Brown has been confirmed as South Africa's new attack coach. Wellington Phoenix coach Giancarlo Italiano has been left frustrated after the goalless A-League men's draw against the Central Coast Mariners. I'm Neva Manu. That's your latest news fix, and we'll be back with the next update at midday from the Newstalk ZB newsroom.